Hey there, how's it going? It's Max Nazaire here from Fit2DMax, and this is the Fit2DMax Own the Process podcast. And on this episode, we're going to talk about relationships and love and all that fuzzy wuzzy stuff, all right? So I have a relationship expert, which actually he started out as a music artist. If you're familiar with 1990s R&B, he came out with the hit #1 single, "This Is How We Do It." And then from there, being married to his wife, they've been married for over 20 years now. And he's been through the ups and the downs and everything that comes along with marriage and relationships. So he has a lot of great things to share with you. He's actually an ordained pastor. And he's going to talk to you about marriage and relationships. One of the most important relationships that we'll have in life. Okay, so this is Montell Jordan, and we're going to go in today on this episode of the Fit2DMax Own the Process podcast. Take care and God bless. And that message, I mean, it still resonates, because I remember like years ago, you said that from the pulpit. You said that a wife and a husband is in a marriage where those two are pushing to outserve each other, are going to have, in your words, a banging marriage. And I remember that, and it still rings true to this day. So I mean, I think it's very sage and wise advice.
Yeah.
So so I mean, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I know that a lot of times with people who are thinking to get married, some people, I think marriage is a good thing, but some people marry for the right reasons, some people marry for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think are the right reasons to marry, and what are the not so right reasons to marry?
I think the right reasons to marry are, first and foremost, I would say, more than you liking a person or more than thinking that this is the one for you, trying to find your soulmate. I think a lot of people just never ask God, ask him, God, is this the person that you have destined for me? And then wait for God to answer, because God is not silent on stuff like that. He'll answer. If you say, God, when it comes to this job, will you open the door for me that I'm supposed to have and close the door if I'm not supposed to have it? As opposed to, I don't know if it's going to work out or not. Now, ask God to close the door or to open it, if that's what he has for you. If this is my spouse, if this is the one that you have created for me, I want you to give me a sign, God. Let me know unequivocally that this is the person that you have destined for my life. And you can be specific. Show me in this way, or show me in a dream, or show me. And God does it, And I love that. And I think part of pre-married, when my wife and I, we get an opportunity to give premarital guidance to couples who are going to be married. And one of the things that we'll tell them is you have to go into marriage with an eternal strategy rather than an exit strategy.
An eternal strategy versus an exit strategy.
Yeah. Most people go into a marriage thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, then I can do this.
So they approach it more like a business proposition.
How to get out, going in. I know how I'm going to get out of this going in. And if you know how you're going to get out going in, you've already planned your way of escape going in.
Yeah. So really, at that point, you're really not all in on that marriage.
You're setting yourself up for a fail going in. Well, we're going to try this thing. We love each other, and we just figure we're better off together than apart. And if it doesn't work out, there's no if it doesn't work out. It's like,
it's like you're setting up for the L right there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for the laws, absolutely.
God is gracious. If God never said to us, if you come together, if you leave this person for whatever reason, you will die. Less people would get married because they would understand, okay, going into this thing, I need to make sure I'm in it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to die. And literally, God doesn't do that, but I would say at the same breath, Max, that when people do separate, there is a death that takes place because he puts something together. He does the multiplication where 1 + 1 = 1, and he puts that 1 together. And then when people want to separate, then you're now trying to take 1 and divide it into something that was never meant to be divided again. And so there is a death that takes place. And in that, I think that if you are going into marriage with an eternal strategy, I'm going into this thinking to myself, how do I make it last forever? That's a shout to Keith Sweat right there.
Yeah.
How do I make it last forever? How we're going to this thing? We're gonna be together forever. I'm never leaving you. You're never leaving me. We are in this thing to win it. You know, and when you go in with that, that's one of the biggest premarital things that I would give to anybody is that if you are going in with even the inkling of an out, don't go in.
Don't go in, yeah. So it's like, you know, you start pulling out that map and it's 1 × 1 = 1, and you create this one, you know, beautiful thing. And when people separate, there is a death that occurs, and that death is divorce. And I guess that would make sense why, like, when people have a divorce, why it's so painful, right? Because, you know, you're taking one flesh, and now, you know, you took 2 flesh, and you made it one, and then you're separating it again.
Yeah. You know, it's, a lot of people will look at marriage as an agreement or as a contract. And that's not what marriage is. Marriage is a covenant. A lot of people don't understand what a covenant is. And I've spoken on this before, is that me and my wife, we recognize we're in a covenant. A covenant doesn't have an expiration date on it. A covenant doesn't have a loophole. Covenant doesn't have an out. It's literally, a covenant is normally sealed in blood. It's something that, you know, is never meant to be torn apart. In earlier scripture days, when 2 people would come into an agreement, it was different when they made agreements, but when they came into a covenant with each other, what they would do is that they would literally tear up an animal, tear up the pieces of an animal, and they would spread them out. And the 2 people that were going to enter into the covenant would have to walk through the torn pieces of the animal together, with the blood, everything on their feet, just to walk through it together to the other side of it. And the agreement was, if we walk through this thing together, and then we determine we're going to leave this covenant, may our lives be like the torn pieces of this animal that we just walked through. That's what a covenant was. Yeah, that's what a covenant was. And literally, that's what happens when you marry. Your families come together, your kids come together, your cars come together, your finances, your home, your lives, your dreams, all these things come together. And then you walk through that together, you're getting all bloody in this thing together, and then you determine, oh, I want out. And so when you do that, literally, what you can't see it in the physical, but in the spiritual, what's happening is your family, your kids, your finances, they all become like those torn pieces of that animal. And even if I wanted to be out of this, and you happy to be out of it, it doesn't mean that you didn't create carnage
along the way.
Along the way, because you left out of something that wasn't meant to be left out of. And here's the sad part. It's sad, but it's sobering. And that is that if God puts you together, you know that covenant is meant to last. Even if God didn't put you together, if you put you together. Because some people will say, well, this marriage, you know, God didn't choose this person for me, I chose. But still, when you went before God and you did the covenant, whether God wanted that covenant for you or you wanted that covenant for you, you still went into covenant.
Right.
You didn't go into an agreement. You didn't go into a contract. You entered into a covenant. And when you enter a covenant, that means you are now in a place of where I'm in this thing to win it forever. So even God can take, I didn't mean that person for you. That's the person you chose for you. But being that you got into that covenant, I'm going to honor that covenant because that's what I do. I'm God, and I honor my covenants.
Right.